Hey YouTubers! So this is my 2.0 version of the Genesis story from the Norse Mythology universe. I'm making this because I have just got this new video editing program and I really want to try it out. And also because my sister informed me that the video I posted wasn't exactly perfect. So let's give it another try. So, for anyone out there who is even remotely familiar with Norse mythology, you guys know that it all started with absolutely nothing. This is what the Old Norse called Ginnungagap, the void. And the name can be translated into the yawning gap, the charge gap, and some people even call it the magically charged gap. But I just kind of think of it as space, because they describe it as containing everything and nothing at the same time. And that is basically how the universe started, right? It was just the what do they call it? Quarks, I think, that make up the atoms, and then they were atoms, and then there was elements, and so everything was there. There just was nothing there yet. But this apparent state of nothingness and everythingness didn't exactly last forever. Eventually, there sprang up two opposing lands, I guess you can call them. There was Niflheim in the north, the land of ice, and there were Muspelheim in the south, the land of fire. So as I said, Muspelheim was the land of fire, and I guess no one really knows where he came from, but in Muspelheim there is a being. They call him a fire giant, and his name is Surtur, which basically means the black one. And Muspelheim means the home of the destroyer of worlds. We have no genesis for Surtur. We do know that it's said that he was there in the beginning and he will be there at the end in Ragnarok and wield his flaming sword against the gods. Until then, he stands in Muspelheim and guards it, I suppose. Niflheim means the fog-encased world, or the home of the fog. And it was made mostly of ice. But it had 11 rivers that ran from it and into the void. And as the rivers ran, the ice of Niflheim slowly grew. And there were two sources of water in Niflheim. One was Vergelmer. That was the pure, unpolluted water. It produced crystal clear white ice. And then there were Elivågor, that was said to be poisoned, and it was tainted and polluted by the ashes from Muspelheim. So we've covered the basics. Let's talk about the inhabitants of Ginnungagap. First, there were this... Well, I have to explain first that this didn't happen overnight. This took a very long time. The ice in Niflheim, as I said before, grew into the void. And just like Niflheim grew, Muspelheim grew too. And when they met, there was this phenomenon. And there was this thing that happened. There, in the middle of the void, there was this puddle of goo that eventually turned into a giant. The gods came to call this giant Ymer, which means the scream or the cry, while the other giants called him Aurgelmer, which really isn't that different. It means the bellower in the depth. And Ymer is said to have been created from when the fire of Muspelheim met the poisoned and polluted water of Elivågor. So that would be why all giants are considered evil. And because there could never only be one of anything in the beginning, there was also a primordial cow, which was named Audhumla. And I have no idea how to translate that name into English, but if I had to try, it would be something like the luscious curvy one. Anyone out there who speaks Swedish and can come up with a better translation, please let me know. This in Swedish is den ymniga kulliga. And she nourished Ymer with her milk. He drank from her udders and nourished himself. And she in turn nourished herself by licking at the clear eyes of Niflheim. And this cow must have really loved that ice, because she looks at it like there's no tomorrow. And eventually she finds a bit of hair in the ice. And if my food would have suddenly developed follicles, I would have never eaten that thing again. But this is a cow, so she keeps licking. And after a day of licking at the ice, there's the head of a man. And after about a week, there is the whole body of a man. And this is the ancestor of all the gods. His name was Bure, which means the breeder, father, or ancestor. And yeah, she licked him out of the ice. God, he must have been sticky. Yeah. And as this was going on, Ymer had his own bit of fun, I suppose you could say. As he slept, from his left armpit came forth a man and a woman, or giant and giantess, whatever. And his feet mated with each other, and they produced a wise, six-headed son. I do not want to know how 2 feet have sex with each other. Okay, so there's some debate about how the gods started to reproduce. Some say that Bure married a giantess and they had a son. And some say that it was a sexless reproduction, with Bure simply breathing his son into being. In either case, the son's name was Bor, and he should not be confused with the personification of winter that we in Scandinavia sometimes call Kung Bor or King Bor, whichever. And Bor married a giantess called Bestla. And these two had 3 children, and they were Odin, Vile, and Ve. There are literally hundreds of names to pick from when you talk about Odin, or Odin, or Odin, or Woden, or Wotan, or there are so many names that you can't really do them justice by talking about them here. So I recommend looking them up if you're interested in it. I will try to put a link in the description box below, and let's get on with it. Okay, so there was peace in Ginnungagap for quite a while between the new gods and the giants. But apparently the giants kind of got loud when they had their ting, their assemblies. It was basically an open forum for bringing up crimes and troubles and disputes and such things. And Odin, Vile, and Ve went to talk to Ymer about this because they were annoyed at the noise. Ymer, on the other hand, did not want to quiet down. So, in the true spirit of a Viking, they killed Ymer. Unfortunately. Well, depends on how you see it, I suppose. I mean, we got the world from it, so I guess it's good for us. So now they had this body on their hands that they had to do something with. So the brothers carried this body into the middle of the Ginnungagap, and it said that the body took up almost the whole void. And they left it there for a while. The blood from Ymer's wounds flowed like rivers and seas and drowned the giants, all except for 2. This was Berglamer and his wife. Some say that Berglamer and his wife survived by holding on to a windmill or climbing onto the stone from a windmill. And some say that they climbed into a wooden crate. Now, this is still Ginnungagap, and as far as I know, there's nothing in it except all these people. And so I don't know how they would get the material to build a windmill or a crate, or what they would use it for. But apparently, there they are. And let's see. So Odin and his brothers, they made Ymer's flesh into the earth, the soil of the 9 worlds. His bones became the rocks and the mountains. They poured his blood into the hollows and made rivers and seas. His hair became the trees and bushes and grass, I suppose. And his brain became the clouds. And above it all, Odin put his skull to serve as the sky. And as this all was happening, there were things that were living in Ymer's flesh. Some say it was insects or maggots or worms, but they developed into dwarves. How they got the dwarvish form and intelligence is a bit of a debate. Some say it happened naturally through selection and mutation, and others say that it was Odin who made them into dwarves and gave them intelligence because he needed them. So he took 4 of the dwarves, called Nordre, Sudre, Austre, and Vestre, to hold up the skull above the world. And these names can basically be translated to north, south, east, and west. He also took one of Berglamir's sons and put him at the end of the world and turned him into an eagle. And I guess he cursed him to forever flap his wings. So there were always wind in the world. And it was in this wind that they threw Ymir's brain to make the clouds. And his eyebrows, or possibly his eyelashes, there's some debate about that too, was placed around Midgard as a wall. Well, actually, they just placed it as a fortification, and they called this fort Midgard. And on the other side of this wall of eyelashes was the world of the giants, Jotunheim or Outgard. And this is where the giants would live. But Odin thought the world was a bit too dark, so he took sparks from Muspelheim and put them on the skull of Ymir in the sky. And he and his brothers made some of them moving and some of them were fixed in place to mark the passing of the years. So yeah, that's how the world and some of its inhabitants was created. And next time we're going to talk about how humans were created, and possibly also how night and day came about. And maybe some more. That depends on how long that video is going to last. Yeah, we'll see. Until next time, YouTubers, click like, comment, subscribe, whatever. You know what to do. Bye.